why do you guys think Bernie is the best candidate for president?
For me, I split it between foreign policy and domestic policy. So with foreign policy, for example, right now what you're seeing is a global rise in the far right. Right, you see it here in America with Trump. You see it throughout Europe. You see it in Latin America. You see it in Asia. And I think that Bernie Sanders is the only campaign that has made it known that they understand that this is a global problem. It's not just a U.S. problem. Trump is not just some anomaly. It's a global problem. And the Bernie campaign is the only campaign that has made it clear that they've oriented their campaign around that understanding. So, Bernie's talked about freeing Lula in Brazil. He's talked out against Bolsonaro. He's talked out, I think he's part of the Progressive International with Jeremy Corbyn and Yanis Varoufakis. So this is somebody who's very aware of the global situation. And then in terms of domestic policy, Cornel West said it best. Bernie Sanders is a thermostat. The other candidates are thermometers. Bernie changed the game, and to the extent that any candidate is moving more to the left, it's only because they're feeling the pressure from the Bernie Sanders movement. Bernie Sanders is the only person with as big of a movement behind him as anybody else. People like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, all of the Justice Democrats, that all comes from the Bernie campaign. So I think, just to give like a brief general answer in terms of foreign policy, Bernie understands that we need to pursue a diplomatic foreign policy, that, Bernie has made it clear that the United States has to stand on the right side of this fight against the global far right. And, he's the one talking about Medicare for all. Every other candidate is coming out with a climate plan, a healthcare plan, a climate plan. That's really only because of the leadership that Bernie Sanders has shown. And taking people, taking diabetes patients across the border to buy insulin. Some people want to say, oh, well, he's just doing it for the campaign. Doesn't matter, he's doing it. Name any other candidate that has done it right now or has ever done it. Those are some of the things that come to mind. Pass it on to you.
Bernie Sanders wants to do immigration reform, and if you look at it, his no tolerance policy really does kind of just target Latino minorities coming from third countries, and it doesn't really target really anyone else, because the no tolerance policy, the people who come here, they have to be detained immediately and separated from their children immediately while they await basically a trial or a meeting with the judge to get their papers passed and become a citizen. Some people could take years, some people could take months. It mostly depends on how much money you have. And Bernie Sanders, he's a humanitarian. He's a consistent civil rights activist. He's been inspired by Eugene Debs, the other third-party candidate that's almost made it the furthest towards gaining the presidency. He's quoted MLK. MLK, we have the national monuments and the national holiday to celebrate MLK. And Bernie stands for basically everything that all these past historical leaders have stood for. Like MLK, he once said, an unjust act is anything that demeans or devalues the human spirit. That's basically the definition of a humanitarian. You want to preserve the human spirit. You want to do what our Declaration of Independence says, which is give everybody the right to pursue happiness. And a lot of these corporate Democrats and these Republican extremists who are just paid off by the corporations, they're not humanitarians. They don't care if they make money off the backs of working families who spend absurd amounts of money on healthcare bills every single month for their families, who have to get multiple jobs and still live paycheck to paycheck. I even have seen some homeless people that have jobs and they're homeless, dude. They're at my local parks in Covina. There was this guy, I used to know him before he was homeless, and even when he was homeless, he worked at a pizzeria and he was still homeless. He has no family. He does have a daughter, and he can't even though he has a job, he can't support his daughter. He doesn't even have custody of his daughter. So it's just like the little things. Bernie Sanders is humanitarian, and the media always demonizes people who are humanitarians. Fidel Castro, when he was first coming up, he said he was a humanist, not a communist or socialist. That's what he first said. He was a humanist. And when you look at that, Eisenhower, and his administration and the media portrayed him as an evil person just because he's a revolutionary.